Welcome. Let's practice. We'll start with Adho Mukha Virasana. Big toes together, knees wide enough so that when you extend forwards, your side ribs rest on your inner thighs. Take the hands as wide as the mat and keep the head lifted as you look forward initially. Arms are straight. Press the hands down, lengthen all of the fingers. And then allow the head to release down. If your head doesn't come down easily to the floor, then place it on some folded blankets. And if you're uncomfortable in the ankles, you can have a rolled blanket underneath the ankles. You can also have folded blankets between the buttocks and the heels. Lift the head. See, can you reach your hips back further and creep your hands further forwards? As the hands move further forward, you have to draw the shoulders back. Shoulders move in the direction the hips. And then from there, come up into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward dog. You can hold on to the side of the mat, or you can have your hands placed classically flat down onto the mat, whichever is better for you. So come up, keep your feet hip width and be up onto the balls of the feet. Just let the head hang. Arms are straight, legs are straight. Just unfold the body. And the breath throughout the class, smooth and even through the nose. Keeping the hips lifting up, lifting the shins. You can start to reach the heels back and down, but try and keep the lift in the hips. Let the eyes be quiet. And then come back down into Adho Mukha Virasana, the kneeling pose. And then come up to sitting. So bring your feet and your knees together. Place the hands down onto the mat in front of you so that you are on all fours. You want to have your hips over your knees and your shoulders over the wrists. Don't drop the waist like this. You have to keep your navel up towards your spine, but you're not rounding your back either. You want to keep your shoulder blades gripped towards one another and the waist moving back. Look at the fingers and the hands and try and spread the weight. So rather than all of the weight coming down into the heels of the hands, you want to spread the weight across the palms and down the lengths of the fingers and into the fingerprints. So keep pressing the whole of the palm of the hand down and feel like your arms are drawing up. They should feel as if the energy is drawing up the arms. And then turn the hands out. So you want to, again, create that feeling where you're not just dumping all of the weight into the wrists and the heels of the hands. So look at the hands. Often the thumbs don't want to be going the right way. The thumbprint, you need to roll that towards the floor. And then try turning the hands all the way back so that the fingers point toward you. You might need to have the hands quite close by. It makes it much easier if you have their hands close to the knees. When they're further away, there's more of a stretch into the forearms. So again, keep the arms straight, spread the weight of the hands, shoulders back, waist back. And then finally turning the hands in towards one another. Keeping the wrists shoulder width apart. Grip the outer arms in. You want to feel that these muscles engage, squeeze towards the midline, the center line of the body. And keep your waist lifting here so that you're not just dropping this area down. You're keeping your waist moving back and your tailbone feels like it's tucking into the body. And then from there, we're going to do Uttanasana. Some of you may need to have a chair for your hands to go onto, or you can use blocks or bricks. You're going to have your feet hip width. Tuck myself in so you can see a little bit better. Feet hip width, and you can have your hands, as I say, onto a chair or onto blocks if you feel that's helpful for you. So hips over the heels, shoulders over the wrists, and you're just looking at the floor, just around the hand area, just looking at the floor there. So the neck is at neutral. Now I want for you to not have too much weight into the heels. Often we're back like this in the pose, we hang the hips back. I want for you to bring more weight into the ball of the foot and to feel as if your heels are lighter. You want to feel that the very front of the thighs are pushing back and that your navel again is lifting up towards the spine, waist moving back, your waist moving back. If you feel you can come down a little bit further, you can start to walk the hands back, closer towards you. You let the head just go now, let the neck release. Then you're pressing the fingertips onto the floor, actively pressing the fingers down so that you feel as if you're lifting your hips up. Keep the shoulders away from the ears. If you feel you can now, you step the feet together. And you could even place the palms flat down onto the floor. Squeeze the legs towards one another. And then from there, look forwards again, bend the legs slightly, put the hands onto the hips, and you want to feel as if your lower back is moving down towards the buttocks and the buttocks are moving down towards the floor. So you're going down with the back body and you're lifting up with the front body, coming back up to standing. Okay, Prasarita Padottanasana. Take the legs wide so that you have your toes slightly turned in and the legs are straight. Hands onto the hips, roll back the shoulders. So to begin with, just really anchor your feet down. Press down the big toe, the little toe, and the center of the back of the heel, and make your legs feel really long, really pulling the leg muscles up, lifting your frontal hip bones up, rolling the shoulders back. And then from there, extending forwards, slowly coming forwards, letting your hands come to the floor. Again, you could use a chair or you could use blocks or bricks for your hands. You see if you can walk your hands back so that the heels of the hands become level with the heels of the feet. I'm going to show you from the side. It's obviously going to be a narrower pose. You stay where you are. So you're trying not to have your hands too far forward. You're trying to walk the hands back so that the heels of the hands become in line with the heels of the feet. And you keep your hands shoulder width. You keep your elbows shoulder width also, so grip the elbows in as you place the head down. If your head doesn't come down to the floor, that's okay. You can use blankets or yoga blocks, or you could just leave your head dangling. You don't have to have the head connecting with the floor. It's just eventually, possibly, that's where it will go. So wherever you're at, you may well be just here with your hands on blocks and your head releasing down, as long as you can feel the stretch in maybe in the back of the legs, probably in the inner thighs. And then push the hands into the floor, lift your head, straighten your arms, bring your hands forwards and look slightly forwards. Now at this stage, most people find it easier to come up. If they narrow their feet slightly, then they put their hands onto their hips and they can come back up to standing this way. So whichever one works best for you. Now, grab a chair. And it's nice if you have a folded yoga mat on top of the chair to make it a little bit padded for the hands, but also it helps with the grip. Now I'm standing about 1 meter away from the chair. I've got my heels together and my toes slightly turned out. And then from there, stepping that right foot straight forward. And I want for you to try not to let your hips and your body turn to the side. You want to try and keep your pelvis squared off towards the chair. This is for, we're going to do a supported Parsvottanasana. So I'm trying to keep my pelvis squared towards the chair. So you put your right leg in front. You're going to take your right hip slightly back as you lengthen forwards. You can either take your hands up onto the top bar of the chair. If you don't have a chair, you can actually have your hands just pressing onto a wall. I'm kind of doing a bit of both just here. You could be holding onto the sides of the chair, but what I don't want for you to be doing is this, where you're just desperate to get your head down. Think of lengthening the crown of the head towards the back of the chair as you reach your tailbone in the opposite direction. Eventually, you might be able to bring your arms down onto the seat of the chair and to rest your head down onto your arms. But it doesn't matter how low you go, just take it at your own pace, bit by bit, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. It builds. And sometimes you plateau and you stay in the same position seemingly for a very long time. Each time you practice, you feel like you're not really getting anywhere, but then there'll come a day where you're like, ooh, I feel that something's shifted and I'm moving deeper into this pose. And sometimes it's just that you have a greater understanding of the pose. So we're not really trying to go very low here. What we're trying to do is get this length through the torso. Both of the legs are straight, and you're trying to get the spine very long. The front body, try and focus on the front body so that from the pubis through the sternum, up and out through the crown of the head, you feel very long there. You might find that in the front foot, this right foot, that your foot is rolling out. So you need to press the big toe of that front foot down and to keep the outer ankle gripped in. And then from there, we're going to come up and we're going to change legs. So take your right foot back and your left foot forward. So your inner heels are in alignment with one another. It's as if there's a line drawn down the middle of the mat and you have your heels just either side of that line. So again, not trying to go down, just square the pelvis with the front of the chair. So this time you're just slightly drawing your left hip back and your right hip forwards, and you're trying to extend long. Hips reaching back, crown of the head, and the hands reaching forward, which is the exact instruction I gave you with Adho Mukha Virasana, with kneeling, and also with Adho Mukha Svanasana, with downward dog. Keep pressing that left big toe down as you slightly draw the left hip back. And if you feel you can come down a little bit lower and rest your head down on your arms or onto the seat of the chair, then do so. And there needs to be an energy, a vitality in your practice. So if you're one of those people who are naturally very flexible, it's really important that you don't just flop here and just stay, because you're just hanging in the joints and you're not working on the strength as well as the flexibility. It's really important that there's a balance across the whole body. So you need to feel, if you're one of those people where flexibility comes very easily, you really need to feel like you're gripping the muscle to the bone, that you're shrink wrapping the muscle around the bone, and that you listen intently to the instructions so that you get the structural alignment correct, so that you don't hurt yourself in time. Often I get people coming to me who've been practicing yoga for 5-10 years, and then they have problems because they haven't been working correctly and have built up difficulties in their bodies. So work with balance in mind, balance strength with flexibility, and always with close attention to alignment and the detail of the pose. And listen to your body, be guided by your body. Pain is a very good teacher. You need to listen to it and not ignore pain in the body. And then from there, you're going to come up. So have the hands at the front corners of the seat of the chair. The hands are slightly turned out, so my thumbs are pointing towards the back of the chair. And then it's like doing downward dog with your hands onto the seat of the chair, feet are hip width. I'm pushing the hips back and I'm trying to keep my heels light again, like in Uttanasana, where I said keep the heels a little bit lighter. Really just reaching the hips back, and I'm pushing the chair in the opposite direction, letting the head be in line with the rest of the spine. And incidentally, if you have a wrist problem and Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward dog, is difficult for you, you can practice it like this because there's less weight into the wrists. Or if it's very difficult for you, you can have your hands interlaced, your forearms down onto the chair, and you can lift and press back into your downward dog this way. There are so many modifications that you can do so that you can still practice yoga, whether you have arthritis or an injury. There are different things that you can do that can enable you to continue to practice. So then from there, you're going to bend the knees and keep drawing the hips back. And then you're going to walk towards the chair and come up to standing. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of work into the hips, Virabhadrasana 2 using the chair. So you're going to have your right foot up onto the chair and your right foot is pointing off to the right. So I want for you to slightly bend that right leg. Your left foot is maybe about 1 meter away from the chair. It's different for everyone. And at the moment, I'm just resting my right elbow down onto that right knee. So just the action in Virabhadrasana 2 actually needs to come from this back hip. what people tend to do is that lead with the knee and the body goes off in that direction. You have to feel as if you're drawing these ribs back and then the action is moving from this left hip. So you're here with your elbow down onto the knee. Keep moving this left hip in. Press the right arm against the inner leg and try and turn your torso around to the left a little bit. Keep squeezing the hips in, this left hip in particular. Press both feet down. And that back foot, make sure you're not losing the back foot, that it's not rolling in. You don't want the thigh to roll in. You want to feel that you're pressing the baby toe side of the foot down and lifting that inner arch up. So then from there, come up into your Virasana 2. Keep this left hip gripped in. Feel that these right ribs are not bulging off to the right. Keep pressing the right foot and the left foot down. Lift your chest. And then look along your right arm. Shoulders down. Feel that you're moving your waist back. You have to lift your lower abdomen up and make sure that you're not bulging your tummy forwards. And then from there, slowly straighten your right leg and move the chair over to the other side of the mat. Left foot up. So I slightly have the heel hooked over, very slightly over the edge of the chair. And then again, I want for you to come down so that you have your elbow just resting on top of the knee. Don't let yourself lean your whole body weight over. It's not armchair time yet. You're still trying to keep the torso lifted. And you're trying to turn your abdomen, your ribs, your chest around. They end up looking straight forward, but you feel as if you're trying to turn them to the right. So get the action from this right hip. Rather than letting that hip be stuck out, you can see here I've done it wrong. So I've stuck my hip out. It's turning my abdomen and my chest to face the floor, and it means my tailbone is sticking out now at the back. And this is a classical Virasana 2 position that people do wrong. So you need to feel as if you're gripping your tailbone in and that this right hip is gripping in. And then here you open this area of the body. So I'm slightly pushing the knee back with my left arm. I'm focusing on lifting the inner ankle on my right foot, really connecting the baby toe side of that right foot down. And these left ribs not pushing forwards, looking along the left arm. Virasana 2. With the help of the chair. It's wonderful with the chair, it's so good. So as you feel as if you're lifting your lower abdomen up, you want to feel that your lower back is going down and that your buttocks aren't popping towards the wall behind you. You want to keep them back. And then from there, straighten the leg and move the chair back over to the first side. So exactly the same start position, where you have your elbow onto the knee initially, turning your abdomen, waist, ribs, chest slightly to the left. Get this left hip to move in. And then from there, come into your right angle with this right leg. And you're going to place your right elbow in front of the knee now. So I have the elbow in front of the knee. My hand is slightly lower than my elbow. And I'm pressing my right shoulder back. I'm keeping my right knee above the right heel. And this inner right thigh is in line with the front edge of the mat. And then from there, you're turning your ribs with your left hand. So you're encouraging this rotation of the torso. Now, don't let your bottom stick out behind you. Grip your right buttock forward and you'll feel a better stretch here against the inner right thigh. Top arm up. And then from there, if you feel you can, the fingertips of the right hand down onto the chair beside your inner right heel. Reach your arms in opposite directions. And then finally, this left arm comes over. You can't see what my hand's doing, but the palm of the hand is facing down and the arm doesn't come in front of the face like this. If this is happening to you, chances are you're not quite turning enough yet. So you need to just have the arm up until you're turned well, so that when you do bring the arm over, it's the left bicep near the left ear and you're turning to look up towards the ceiling. Push against the chair, come back up, second side. So elbow on top of the knee, just initially whilst you check the other points before you begin. Baby toe side of the right foot, anchor it down, lift the inner arch of the right foot. Make sure your right hip is moving in and that you're turning your torso around. And lunge into it. So keep moving this right hip deeper in. Lift the chest, lift the front body. Bring the elbow in front of the knee. Have the hand slightly lower than the elbow. And you push the knee back to help you turn your torso more. Long, smooth breath. This is now Parshvottanasana that we're working on. Fingertips of the left hand down, top arm straight up. Smooth breath. Again, check the inner ankle on that right foot, that you haven't just let it drop down towards the floor. When you keep externally rotating the top of the right thigh and you anchor the baby toe side of your right foot down, that really helps to prevent the drop of the arch. Turn the palm of the right hand, take the right arm over, so there's a straight line from the baby toe side of the right foot out through the fingertips. And then from there, push off the chair, come up. Okay, move the chair to one side. Have a blanket to sit on. Most people benefit from sitting in Baddha Konasana when they're up a little bit higher. If when you sit, your knees are very high and your back is a little bit rounded, I'm going to show you from the side. If it's looking a little bit more like this and you're falling backwards, then sit with your back against a wall so it's supported. You need to also, if your knees are high, you should sit up on more blankets. So when you're sitting, you want to sit so that your body is, your torso is upright. You're straight up. Crown of the head, center of the chest, and the pelvis in line with one another. Now do it facing towards you. Let's move over so we're more centered. So I've edged towards the front of the blanket. If I sit right at the back of the blanket, my pelvis tends to roll backwards. When you sit more towards the front of the blanket, so that it's lifting the back of the pelvis up, it helps to give you a lift of the back body so that there's less of this sort of rolling back and this C shape here where you're just sort of dropping back in the middle front body. Hold on to your ankles. Press your heels towards one another. You want to feel that your upper thighs are externally rotating and that you're stretching from the groins to the inner knees. So feel that you're lengthening out in that direction. Hold on to your ankles. As you feel you're lengthening out the groins to the inner knees, feel that there's a gripping of the hips. You really want to feel that as you press your heels towards one another, that your hips are really gripping in also. So again, I was talking about this balance of strength with flexibility. You're not just leaning straight forward and slumping yourself into the pose. You're staying here, and for people that are particularly flexible, they can sometimes find the beginning parts of the pose trickier than the final pose. So you need to learn to keep the pelvis balanced. So I'm neither dropping the front of the pelvis forward like this, and nor am I rolling and dropping the back of the pelvis back. If you were to think of the pelvic rim as if it were a goldfish bowl filled to the brim with water, you don't want to have the water slopping out the front, nor do you want to have it slopping out the back. You want to keep the front and the back rim of the pelvis level. Broaden across the collarbones. So as I squeeze my heels together, as I squeeze my hips towards the midline and extend out in this direction, the knees eventually come lower towards the floor. Lift the chest up. Now, I used to sit like this. I was here for a very long time, and you just have to sit and sit and sit in the pose, and you'd need to sit up higher. It's no good sitting this low with the knees this high. I would sit up on 4 or 5 blankets, even 5 blankets and a block, so that the knees are more level with the hip bones, so it's more like this, or they can be lower. So if your knees are up around your ears, just sit up higher, and you could even consider having some heavy blankets draped over the thighs to help that weight, to help this stretch into this area here. This pose is called Baddha Konasana. You stay sitting where you are. I'm going to show you from the side the detail with regards to coming forwards. So when you come forwards into the pose, you need to think of coming forwards. Sounds simple, but not down. Don't think of going down, because that's when people just round their back and pull themselves down, and their back just becomes this yucky, rounded hump. So you need to feel as if you are trying to bring yourself further forward in the pose, crown of the head reaching forward. Same instruction that I was giving you in Parshavottanasana. So I'm trying to lengthen forwards, keeping all of the other elements of the pose there. So I'm pressing my heels, gripping my hips, extending the groins towards the inner knees. And it may get difficult to keep holding the ankles. You may feel that it's easier for you to hold your toes as you keep bringing yourself forwards, and eventually the head comes down. But that's not the important part of it. It's okay if you're here and you can feel it really strongly. It's much better to be here like this, to be sitting with a nice straight back, rather than to be like yanking and pulling yourself and bouncing and really being aggressive with yourself. You want to just treat your body with respect and to be patient. So wherever you're at, it really doesn't matter. You're just working on bringing yourself forwards. Remember that feeling of keeping your waist back and your lower abdomen lifting up, so that you don't push too much. For those of you that are flexible, there's a tendency to do this, to overly push this area. You have to keep that pelvic rim level, remember, around the front and the back. Okay, and then from there, come back up so that your torso is upright. Use your hands to gather your legs up and give them a little hug. Sit up tall, lifting the chest up. So a couple more poses, and then that's it, just a little practice today. Swastikasana, which is simple cross legs. Most people, when they cross their legs, they cross their ankles and their knees are really wide. Not much really goes on in here in this position. So this is quite comfortable for most people. I want for you to see if you can cross more of the mid shin, really, so that the feet aren't as visible. They're more underneath your knees or your thighs. So I'm going to show you from the side, and if you need to sit upright in this pose, if you need to sit up on blankets, then of course do. So sitting up straight, I hook my wrists over my knees. Try not to hold on with the fingers because there's a tendency to do this, to lift the knees and lean back. I'm hooking my wrists over so that I can bring the dorsal spine forwards. That bit always wants to sort of bow out. So you have to grip your wrists, lift the front and the back body. And if that's difficult for you, if you're very tight in here, if you're uncomfortable sitting cross legs, do it with your back against the wall so that you don't strain the back. So again, I want for you to work on coming forwards in this pose and to not think of going down. So to keep walking your hands on fingertips away from you and to just take your time here. You know, you could be in this pose for 3-4 minutes, longer eventually once you regularly practice. So keep that lift of the lower abdomen. Keep the breath smooth. And every now and again, if you feel you can move your hands forwards another little bit, do. But something I want to mention here is about the shoulders. And this is true of many poses. You'll hear me saying it a lot when I'm teaching. To keep the distance between the shoulders and the earlobes. You don't want to have your shoulders pulled up towards your ears like this and hunching. Shoulders down away from the ears. So make your neck long. And you may be able to bring your forearms down onto the floor. If you have that blanket that you were sitting on earlier, you could just make that so that it's nice and soft for your head to come down onto. Again, when I first started practicing yoga, I was here. And this was such a strong stretch through here for me. That I literally couldn't come down any further than this. So I would just be here. And if you bring a chair in, you stay where you are in the pose while I show you. Those of you that do find this pose very strong, you can be sitting right up close to a chair, and you can have your elbows onto the chair and just rest your head down into your hands. This way, you're keeping this lift in the front body. You're much less likely to droop and drop. You can also eventually have your head down onto your arms onto the chair. And again, just be aware that you're not letting your body round back like this, that you're trying to bring your chest towards the chair. And that will help you keep this alignment of the spine, this lift of the spine. So we're going to come up and change the cross of the legs now. So come up, change over. You may find that you have one side really easy and one side's like, ooh, that's quite strong. That's actually really normal to have this in yoga when you first start practicing. You realize quite how wonky you are, that one side will be stronger, therefore it's a little bit tighter. And sometimes you find out little things about the body, like when you fell and broke your wrist when you were 13, that maybe when you're practicing handstand, oh, okay, I can feel the difference in the wrists. It's quite interesting. It really is illuminating. It's like shining a light on the insides of the body and what's going on. So make sure you put your feet crossed wide enough. Lift your chest up. Whether you use the chair or not, it's completely up to you. But just very gradually let yourself come forwards. And feel as if you're lifting your torso out of the pelvis. There needs to be this energy again, this vitality, this lift, which gets easier with more and more practice, this understanding of how you can achieve those things. When you first start in yoga, you just need to get the basics. How are you crossing your legs? Is your back pretty straight? And that's pretty much the basics for this pose. And then all of those other little details, me talking about lifting your lower abdomen, lengthening your lower back, moving your tailbone in, these things will come in time with practice. So again, if you feel that you can let your forearms come down, you can let your head rest down onto your arms or onto a blanket. And then slowly coming back up and release the legs. Okay, I want to do a twist before finishing. So we're going to twist in Svastikasana. It's a very simple twist. So sitting with your legs crossed, the way that we've just said, so that you're not crossing your ankles, but you're crossing more with your feet underneath your knees, crossing mid-shin. Sit up on a blanket if you feel you need to. Hook the wrists or the heels of the hands over the front of the knees so that you can get your chest lifted. And then from there, you're going to turn around to the side, whichever side, doesn't matter. So keep your chest lifted and just rotate. So you want to feel like you're turning your navel, your chest, your shoulders, and then your head. Don't lead the charge with your head. Don't whip your head around, strain your neck, and then not really turn this area at all. Much better for you to be keeping looking forwards and for you to turn the rest of the torso and then just casually glance your head over in the direction you're twisting. Now what tends to go wrong in this pose, you stay in the twist. I'll show you from the side. What tends to go wrong is that people lean over. So you need to keep the weight even in both sitting bones, and people tend to lean back. So you need to keep yourself upright. If in doubt, you probably are leaning back. Don't be flat on the hand. You need to be up onto the fingertips. And if you've got an arthritic problem, have a yoga brick or blocks or something so that you can have the heel of the hand down onto a brick or a block and that you're not up onto the fingers causing any difficulties for yourself. I keep both elbows slightly bent. When you lock your arms straight, it's like a full stop. Boop, and no more turn coming. When you have your arms slightly bent, you feel that you can, on the exhalations, you can just wring out a little bit more and a little bit more. And you can see there's no tension in my voice because I'm not straining, I'm not really wrenching my head around. But I can feel a big old twist through the whole length of the spine. And then from there, you come back to the center, you change the cross of the legs, you turn back around to face you now, and then you're going to twist to the other side.
Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe to the channel.